In recent times, I've been giving therapy to someone who suffers from anxiety, panic attacks, and a general dullness to life, whereby this person cannot conjure up any excitement, any desire to do anything, because everything's the same. And this person defines it as being flat, low and flat. If it was high and flat and you're on a high every day, then, you know, this is the bliss of life. But most people, they seldomly, if ever, touch on these highs. And so when you're running on a low consistently, then it's difficult to find reason in this life. Why would you want to do anything if none of it changes this dull flatness that you have within your whole being? And so this is the thing these days with mind viruses. It's becoming more and more prevalent. People are becoming more and more automated. They are losing touch with the natural world. They are being immersed more and more into technology and into instant gratification. But you see, in the old days, instant gratification could have been a much more broader spectrum of things to enjoy. Like on the spur of the moment, let's do this and let's do that. A sense of adventure and a certain recklessness. Fuck it, let's just do it. Let's live. But people invariably, they don't do that anymore. They don't have any spontaneity. It's kind of like, can't be bothered. Oh, we can't do that, we shouldn't do that. And so then they look for their instant gratification in their likes and subscriptions and comments. And when I'm speaking to this person I'm helping, she speaks of the lack of concentration. Can't concentrate, can't hone in on anything for longer than about 5 minutes, 10 minutes maximum, before the mind virus overtakes again. And if she's reading a book or she's watching something on YouTube or she's trying to concentrate on some job application or something, the mind just keeps wandering here and there, and invariably they're negative thoughts. And kind of like, what's the point, what's the use, why am I doing this? If they get the job, what's it going to mean to me? Okay, I've got more money, but you know, the money isn't bringing any level of enjoyment, because these days people can't seem to get ahead. They can't seem to have a little bit of an abundance, to be able to be a little bit reckless and frivolous and just say to themselves, I just fancy doing this, you know, for the sake of it. Let me just go and spend 500 quid on doing that. So what? I'll have another £500 to spare next week. We don't have that privilege anymore. Very few people. And if they do have the privilege of having the money, then they don't have the time. You see? It's all wrong, isn't it? If you have the time, then there's lots of time to do stuff. And you see, like what I'm doing now, I'm sitting here amongst these beautiful pansies, I think they are, couldn't be sure, along this beautiful cliff face in the nice warm sun. It's a pleasant, cool wind, and I'm listening to the ocean and the odd seagull. And there's nothing else that I would rather do. And all the things that pertain to money, I wouldn't want to do those. I don't want to do this, and I don't want to do this. And you see, there's boat trips out here every day, going into caves and you know, having lunch and having a few beers and this and that. I've done all this stuff, and really, it brings little satiation. The satiation these days derives out of the peace and the calm and the being, without the distractions, because all the distractions are distracting you from your natural state, which is bliss. And it's ironic, isn't it? We think that we need to be doing all of these things to find happiness and joy, when in actual fact all we need to do really is have enough money to be able to emancipate ourselves from our slavery, or have a reasonable amount of time. If you've got a job which is 4 days a week, then okay, you've got 3 days a week whereby you don't need to spend money. You can sit with yourself, with the God consciousness, and you can just go, wow. Just to free myself from the notion of all that stuff has any real value is a bliss in itself. So getting back now to mind viruses and to people who experience the anxiety on a reasonably constant basis. What I say to this person is, well, for me to try to understand how you're feeling so I can help you, we need to have some sort of a gauge. And so this gauge is a subjective thing, and it pertains to the highs and the lows in any given person's life. And so what I said, well, I want you to write down 1 and 10, 1 through to 10. And every day, what you do is you put a tick and a few comments next to whatever number you consider that you was immersed within. But I said, to be able to do this, you have to know explicitly how this gauge works with you. And the only way you can work your gauge out is to define the parameters, i.e. the highs and the lows. And so what is necessary is to reflect upon the lowest experience you've ever had. The time in your life when you've absolutely felt the lowest. Be it suicidal or in the depths of deep depression, whatever. That's number 1. That's the lowest. The highest, naturally, is when you felt the most joyous. What was it? Were you in love? Did you have this amazing job? Was it because you were young and free, seemingly, and the world was your oyster and you just went out and you just got everything you wanted? These are the things that we need to put down on this scale. And so then when every day you get into bed at night and you assess how you were feeling, then you put that down. And if it was kind of like, it was okay, I felt dull, I had a little bit of anxiety, then that's kind of like maybe a 3 or a 4. If it's like I woke up this morning and as soon as I opened my eyes, you know, I started to have a panic attack, and my chest was in pains, and I was so anxious about going outside into the world and going to work and facing people, then you can say that that's probably an 8. If 10 is when you're feeling suicidal, then we have to be reasonable about it. Just because we had a panic attack, we can't say that's 10, because every time you have a panic attack, it will be 10. What about if somebody in your family who you deeply love dies? What number's that? You see? Now, obviously, there are going to be occasions in our lives when we will experience something that exceeds the parameters that we've already laid out. I.e., if our number one was when we felt, say, like a deep depression, not suicidal, but a deep depression, and then somebody in your family, a loved one, dies, then obviously that will go down and surpass the one, and so you'll get -1 then. And if you go above 10, you'll get +10, you see? But these are very, very rare occasions because they're very severe. And so what I'm saying here is, in this video, it's a practical application to know yourself, to be able to monitor what is actually going on within your physiology and your mind. Because if you can't monitor where you are on a daily basis, then you can never address why you're feeling like that, as opposed to any other particular day. And if you don't address why it is, then how can you try to overcome what it is that's making you feel like this? I.e., if somebody wakes up in the morning and the first thing that happens, they have a panic attack because they've got a job interview, then it's kind of like, okay, so a panic attack, wow, that's really low on my experiential scale. That's kind of like, it's a number 3. Now, what practical application can I make which is going to help me avoid situations like this? What was it? The fear of the interview. Why do you fear the interview? Well, because you're being scrutinised. Well, what is it about you that doesn't like being scrutinised? I just don't like, you know, people asking me questions and putting me under pressure because it's like I have to provide something which is going to enable them to accept me, you see. Because in this life, the vast majority of it is about peer acceptance. We need to feel this level of acceptance to gauge ourselves, to gauge our value. And the more friends we've got, the more accepted we feel. The less friends we've got, obviously the more rejected we feel. The more rejected we feel, the more potentially depressed and lonely we can feel. And that then goes down to, you know, suicidal thoughts and all this sort of thing. And so this person, she really struggles with actually taking the effort, making the effort to go out with friends. Friends will phone her up and say, let's go here and let's go and do that. And if it's a week before, she'll agree. But then progressively, as it becomes nearer and nearer the time, her anxiety about it will grow. And then when it's time to get ready to put clothes on and to feel good and get ready to present herself to the world for acceptance, that's when she starts to feel insecure. And, you know, I don't know a girl that's never had insecurity in some region, but many girls have insecurity about their figure, don't they? And so then they put this on and put that on, and it doesn't feel right, doesn't look right. They're insecure about whether, you know, the proverbial bum looks big in this. Lots of guys like big bums. You know, what is all this business about, does my bum look big? You know, look around. How many girls have got big bums? And how many of them have got partners? A great number. So therefore, it stands to reason that big bums are okay. But you see, it's a societal restriction that has been imposed upon all girls that big bums are not cool. You need the absolute tightest, smallest, minimus glutamus. Otherwise, there's a high chance that you're not going to be accepted. And people are not going to be thinking fondly of you. It's preposterous. And so some of the things that we can look at then is when we look at media and we see these models, and they're all just twigs, aren't they? And seriously, if you ask guys, do you find that twig attractive? They'll go, no. I want something with a little bit more meat on it. You know, this bony arse thing going on. What's all that about? It's ridiculous. And bony girls, I'm sorry for some bony girls out there, but they don't really feel good. You know, when you're in times of passion, you want something with a little bit more curvature. You want a little bit more packing on the bones, don't you? And so why is it that girls have this insecurity all the time? Because of the indoctrination. And so, when a girl stands in front of the mirror putting on clothes, and she starts to feel negative about how she considers she is, then what we have to do is then, when you write down on your list, I felt okay until it got to the point whereby I was going to go out, and then I had social anxiety. Why? Because I felt that my bum was a little bit big, or people might think that my figure isn't so great, or I'm not so good looking, and this sort of thing. Okay, we're getting somewhere now. What can we do about that? What can we do about your looks? Well, probably not a lot in relation to looks. And so if there's not a lot you can do about it, then there's the level of acceptance then that you must find. Accepting that we're not all beautiful, all paintings. You know, lots of us have features that are not particularly pleasing to the eye, for most. But maybe, you know, we have a nice personality, or we're a beautiful soul, or something like this. You know, there's no perfection in the human being. There's only perfection in the spirit. And so we have to monitor and look closely at the way we're feeling. And this is the whole thing, you see, with lots of people, they speak to me and they say, I appreciate your videos at one level, Aaron, when you're talking about nature, because they're beautiful videos and I like how you articulate stuff, but when I try to do it and feel what you seem to be feeling, I can't get it. Or sometimes I get it for a fleeting moment and then it goes away again, because the mind viruses come back into play, and then they start instilling fear within me, or the dullness comes back because of the societal burdens that I carry with me, the societal pressures that won't leave me alone. They're always there. And so slowly, this is the whole thing with therapy, you see. You have to address the tiniest of things. And so, getting back then, because this is the popular thing with girls, that they are feeling that they're not going to be accepted, then to look at the rational side of it, and to understand propaganda, and talk about, listen, do you know what's been happening very, very prolifically within this past 100 years? A great intensity and infiltration into the human mind of propaganda, manipulating you, pressurizing you into being a certain sort of person to have the greater amount of acceptance, to be a size 6 or a size 8, and to get into these skinny little pants, and you know, to look so slinky and graceful when you're walking, and all this sort of thing. It's all a facade, and it's all about bringing about pressure to people, you see. When do you ever see mainstream media that are selling clothes, or selling ice cream, or selling sunglasses or perfume, when you've got an ugly and fat person? Come on, I'm straight talking here. So whose fault is it? Because what they're doing is when they're selling ice cream, and you've got beautiful young women invariably, often suggestively eating the ice cream, so there's a high level of sex connotation to it as well. And so they're selling not only the product, but they're selling sex. And so when we look at that, is it any wonder that the vast majority of people are feeling like below par? They are not feeling a part of these beautiful people and all of the goods that are advertised towards this variety of person. And so we have to understand certain things, and we have to have an acceptance that there's an illusion going on. Hang on, if we look at all the people around, how many of them have these perfect bodies? A very, very small percentage. And so the reality is then, the reality isn't the media. The media is a complete non-reality. So, what can we do then if the media is affecting us? Simple. Walk away from the media. Turn off the advertisements on your internet or on your phone. Don't watch the television unless it's a documentary or it's a program that you particularly like. Be in complete avoidance of their propaganda. And then when you are in avoidance of their propaganda, you might turn your mind then to thinking for yourself when you don't have that level of infiltration. And talk to people and see what their opinion is. I.e., if you're feeling all insecure about yourself and you think you're the only one that's feeling like that, you're wrong. All you have to do is to be a little bit free with yourself and be a little bit confident and say to people that you don't necessarily know that well, how do you feel on a 1 to 10? What anxiety do you have? How is the social media poisoning your mind? How do you feel when you see these beautiful skinny girls, if you think they're beautiful when they're skinny, modelling all of these clothes? Do you feel that you are lacking something, you're too much in a bad way? Because I think the vast majority of people, and this extends also to males, I know how many males feel emasculated. They feel as if their manhood is being taken away every single second of the day. Because the manly jobs that were around are no longer around. Can you imagine in the Industrial Revolution, all of these manly jobs that we had, like coal mining and steel working and, you know, building to a greater degree using real natural materials. These days, buildings, if you know how houses are built, they're basically Lego. It's all Lego. Some houses, you know, actually they come, you know, in 4 sides. You know, you just pull the sides up and then you just put some bricks around them. And, you know, even the bricks, it's all Lego, isn't it? And everything you put inside it is just a kit. All you're doing is assembling. You're not building anymore. It's assembly. Building is when you used to build with stone and wood. And every piece of wood had to be handcrafted, carved, chiseled and sawed. And every piece of stone was exactly the same. It took masons, very, very skilled masons, to shape every single stone. And when you look at the churches and cathedrals and you see the intricacy involved in